And then they went, what? I'm like, I told you all. They, you know how kids are. Okay, so, everybody cool
Do you
with that?
have an extra one, or do you want me to go make my own?
You'll have to make your own because I'm not making those. I made them make their own. All right, we have been talking about what this week? Thank you, say it louder. Differentiation, okay. McKenna, you and Taylor are absolutely gonna love today because actually what I'm covering today, I learned at a special education conference. It was a co-teaching conference between regular ed and special education teachers to help us better meet the needs of our collab students. But the research has shown, and think aloud with me a minute, if co-teaching was originally set up for special education, but we're now doing it with 2 regular ed teachers in there for student teaching, if it will close the gap for kids with special need, how much more will it close the gap for regular ed if they don't have that much of a gap? So here's my question. If the framing routine helps those students, how much more could it also benefit other students, especially those students in the middle? Those good average students who still struggle with some things, okay? Research has come out, and I know you all are mostly P5, but when you get up into the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, kids need to start developing study habits. And if they don't establish them in the elementary schools, they're never going to get them in middle school, and they're definitely not going to follow them to high school. And there's much research out that says that guided notes hinder student learning. So the thing is, kids are coming to college and they don't know how to take notes because all through school, what were they given? Ray, you can't sit back there. Yeah, and get your top knot up here. Okay. The idea of students coming to college only being able to fill in words in a fill-in-the-blank guided notes, and I asked 8 o'clock this morning, you can answer me too, do you know of college professors that give you all fill-in-the-blank notes? They didn't have one either, okay? So what we're wanting to do is help kids develop better ways to learn. So today I have an instructional strategy that goes along with differentiation, and I think it will help you in the classroom, and it's called actually the framing routine. And I will go through this and it will kind of help us shore up our understanding of differentiation. This is what the book looks like that I actually got at that conference. It's called the Framing Routine. It is a tool, guys. It's not an instructional strategy, it's a tool that you can use to help students organize their thoughts, understand their learning, how to make connections with the content that's being taught. It's a graphic organizer, pretty much, but it's considered to be a learning tool. Vygotsky would call it a cognitive tool. His whole constructivism, social culture theory was all about kids need to use cognitive tools to help them to learn, and adults to scaffold their learning. Basically, that's what differentiation is. So what we need to do is look at how this book helps us to do that, okay? And like I said, this came from a conference that I went to. I have used it. I've used it at middle school, I've used it at high school, and I've used it at college. So it does work, okay? Of course, you know in education, everything is an acronym, right? I think we probably, before y'all get out of the program, need to see how many of the acronyms you actually know. Okay, so FRAME is an acronym. So F stands for focus. Okay? So what was the question I just asked you that Taylor answered so beautifully a minute ago? What did you answer? Differentiation. So this week the main idea or the topic we would be talking about would be differentiation. And here in a few minutes you're actually going to get to complete a frame or start one on differentiation. Okay? So you start with the main word. You can teach vocabulary this way, kiddos. Instead of asking kids to write down words, you can teach vocabulary with frames. The R stands for reveal. One at a time, you reveal the main ideas under that topic. Or if you're doing vocabulary, you would reveal the main points of that definition. If y'all remember from 390, most of y'all had me last semester, most of you. Do you remember when we did formative assessment and I gave you the definition and there were 4 key points that we pulled out? Same thing there is helping to learn a concept by pulling out the important parts of the definition. If you're reading a story and it's got several characters in it and you're wanting the kids to pull out individual characters, you would reveal the characters one at a time. Or if you're reading a story, you would reveal the elements of a story one at a time. You can also do this over a period of time, ladies and gentlemen. If you're teaching a unit on the story elements or you're teaching a unit on the elements of music, you would literally, the kids could be doing this frame over a period of lessons. And each day you would reveal a new main idea out of that. Okay? So it can be used multiple ways. It can be used for one lesson. It can be used for unit lessons. It can be used to study stories or P5s if you're doing informational text and kids are struggling with getting the main idea and details. You can pull frames out. They can be used as organizational structure for writing. They can actually be your pre-writing. So they can be used for a lot of things. But when you reveal the main ideas, you can do it all in one lesson or multiple lessons. Next thing you do is under each one of those ideas, you analyze it. You pick it apart. You give me everything you think is important, not the fluff, but the important stuff. This is where you truly understand whether kids are learning. Are they picking out the main ideas or are they just writing anything down that they can think of? You really have to make sure that they look at these. Now, the F, R, and the A, most teachers will do. The next letter teachers usually forget, and I'm telling you, if you leave out the M, the whole point of making this frame is missed. The M is make a so what statement. Okay? I want to ask you all a question before I talk about a so what question. How many of you have a certain note-taking system? Okay, Callie, how do you do it?
I bullet everything. And
Okay.
then I make headings and list important
Okay.
things under it.
All right, who else? Typically, question, do you divide your paper? Okay. Have you seen the Cornell system where you divide your paper into 1/3, 2/3, and you take notes over here, then you come back and do the bullets or the main ideas or the questions or the things that you need to remember and whatever. Now, in the Cornell, it's important every time you finish taking a set of notes and you go out of class, it's important that you summarize that set of notes or that class period.
I was in a science class in high school that it was a guided note sheet, but it followed that format.
Okay.
For it, so it somewhat guided notes, but also required some independent
Right.
thought.
I taught a learning methods class when I was here, when I first started here, and I was working part-time in the Basque and part-time down here. And I would always ask my students that when you take notes, always make sure you make a summarizing statement when it's over. That's what this is. At the end of the teaching, you need the kids to make a so what statement so they understand the relevance behind why are they learning that. Or make a connection to their own baseline knowledge. Connect it to something they already know. It also tells you if they are understanding, because if they can summarize it and write it out, then they understand it. And if it can be in their words and not your words and not the textbook's words or somebody else's. So guys, I'm being dead serious on the M. If the kids don't do that, you're losing a huge part of why you do this strategy to begin with. And then the E is you extend the learning. So you use this for learning activities. McKenna and Taylor, one of the main reasons this is used for IEPs is prompting and cueing. And so the main ideas that you have on there becomes a prompt. So you might say, you know, if you would look under main idea blank, you will be able to find your answer. You don't give them the answer, you just scaffold them through, actually prompting and cueing is a scaffold. That's all it is. So you're actually helping them to find it. Frames and foldables are very similar. A foldable is more of a piece of paper that you fold and cut and tabs and flaps and all this kind of stuff, but you have a prompt on the outside and on the inside you have information. Same way here, your main ideas are your prompts, and then underneath that you have all of your information. And then you have, one thing I like about this, is you have a summarizing statement at the end that helps tie it up with a big bow, pretty much. Well, extending it is a way to use it, okay? You may teach a lesson and then have kids complete a frame on their own as a formative assessment. You may make it note-taking and then the kids use this as a study tool for the exam. You may use it as a tool for them to pull out when they're doing practice or when they're working on a project or when they're working on something and use it as a resource. Every year that I was teaching, I bought my kids sheet protectors. Bought them 2. You buy them on sale, guys. You catch them on sale before school opens up, and I'd buy packages and packages, and every time I caught them at the Dollar Tree, I'd buy them, and I kept them in my desk drawer. I gave them one for their frames and one for their foldables. So they'd put them in their binders or in their folders, and whenever we would start working on something, they knew they could pull their frames and their foldables out and put them on their desk, and then they would pull out the one that they needed to help. Once again, what is this? It's a tool. It's a tool for them to use, okay? It's teaching them to be self-regulated, if we go back to 300 again, okay? They need to be self-regulated learners. They need to learn where to go find the information if they don't have it. You're trying to teach P5ers to be more independent. K1, 2, I know they're not going to get real independent, but 3, 4, 5, they better be getting that way. Because middle school is not going to baby them. High school is not even going to do that much. When you get to college, you just won't even go there. Okay? So you want to teach them to learn to become independent, and if you listen to Stephen Covey, after that they become interdependent. So that's what we want to do. It's a way of sharpening the saw, if you know the 7 habits. It's a way that we do that. So, let me show you what some of them look like. These are some examples. This is a 3-part frame and a 5-part frame. And you say, well, how do you decide how many parts you need? Well, it depends on what you're teaching. How many parts does what you're teaching have? Can anybody venture to guess how many parts our differentiation is going to have today when we do one? How many? No. Anybody have an idea?
7.
How many?
7.
No. 3. It's going to be a 3-part frame. Does anybody know why? They went there at 8 o'clock too. If you're thinking content, process, and product, yes, I agree with you. There are 3 things, but we have talked about 3 specific ways. Tiering, scaffolding, grouping, bingo, bango, yay, kudos, woo-hoo, celebrate. Yes, so you establish your parts based on how you want to divide out the content you're teaching. Okay, how many elements of music are there? 6. 6. Yeah, I think there's 6, so I would pick 6. I've used this one before. When I taught properties in math, like associative, distributive, commutative, inverse, identity, when I taught those, I used this, and we created it over a period of time. I've used the 3-part one. when I was teaching college algebra, and we were factoring. So I taught how do you factor binomials, trinomials, and polynomials, and then they used it as a resource. I could do it based on how do we solve system of equations, do we graph, do we use substitution, or do we use elimination method, the 3 branches of government, where else you want me to go with it? Locomotor, non-locomotor, if we wanted to do a 2-part frame over here. If there's 4 characters in the story that are really important to what you're doing, then you would do 4. So you all decide based on how you sort out the material. To be honest, when I take notes, you would not want to see my notes when I take them because they all over the page. And I doodle in between them. But what I used to do when I was in school is I would then take those notes and I would organize them into bullets and lists and charts and things like that. Because as I'm listening, I'm just all over the page. But I come back to my room and I would organize them because I'm mathematical logical, I see patterns, and I would look for things to put together. That was my make a so what statement, is I would come back to my room and put them together. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wasn't a real good, I'm not telling you I was the model student. I just learned from experience after my first round of tests my freshman year, my first semester in school, that I had to do something different. I bombed my first round of tests in college. I thought I was coming an all-A student, and I thought it was just going to be a piece of cake. I had Gen Psych, and I had American Government, I had U.S. History, and I had college algebra, which should be a breeze for me, and English, whatever y'all take that very first class, 111. This is a piece of cake. Had all this college-bound classes. Wow. No. Spent the rest of the semester trying to recover from the first exam. I got all B's and 1A. The only thing I got an A in was American Government. Everything else I got B's in. And I barely got B's in some of those because I made so low on the first test. So I had to come up with a new system. And I began to come back to my room and rewrite my notes in a fashion that made sense. And I learned you couldn't learn 50 pages of notes in one night from U.S. history. Wasn't possible. Wasn't humanly possible. And pass his test. Because they were 33 short answer questions. Or 3 points apiece, and you got a point for putting your name on the paper. Okay? So I learned. I wasn't that I came to college prepared. I just had to learn to get prepared quickly. But that's how you do it. Let me show you. This one could be actually analyzing a story or an informational text, or we could use it to write a paragraph or to write a story. When I was, I've been using frames for a long time, but I always like to update my own learning. As I was researching again to get some ideas for today, lots of people are now using the clarifying table. It is a new type of frame to help kids clarify. It helps them to to connect to past knowledge, and you have core idea. I've never seen a clarifying table. Thought it was kind of a cool idea. Thought I'd pass it along. Let me show you a couple that are completed. That one's on the Russian Revolution. Social, cultural changes, political changes, economic changes. And then if you look at his so what statement, it led to dramatic social, political, and economic changes within Russia that increased government control over the people and decreased Russia's ability to make independent decisions. So according to this kid, the idea was we increase control of the government and the people decrease. It was an indirect relationship, okay? This one is on circles. You can do area and circumference. And the so what statement is that you can use equations to find 2 properties of a circle. And by the way, kids confuse area and circumference of a circle all the time. From a math perspective, misconceptions.
Can you go back to the slide before real quick?
Sure can.
Okay, so on the clarifying table, would like the part, the make a so what statement, would that be like the connection?
Yes,
And then the example sentence would be the
Yes.
extend part? Okay.
yes, exactly. Like I said, the clarifying table was new to me, but there seemed to be quite a bit about it. Matter of fact, that's something I put on my list of things I really wanna look at.
Yeah, I feel like that almost, like the wording and stuff makes more sense, I would say, to elementary learners.
Go with it.
Yeah.
Elementary also can handle more of this kind, because there's not so much distraction. Also, and I did tell 8 o'clock this, and I need to make sure, see the little circles? You can do different things with them. If you're in a textbook, you can put page numbers, so that kids can go back to the page and find where that was used. If I am using these details, I can order them as the most important, second most, third most, fourth most. Or if I'm gonna use this to write paragraphs or to write a paragraph, I would number them in the order that I want to do them in the writing. But actually the little circles are extra prompts and cues that I can use to help kids. That's another form there. So you can just kind of see examples of these. I can totally see it with elements of a story. I can see it with, we talked about, Patrick, because I know you're not with your other music comrades. We talked about listening activities and having to listen to a piece of music, and then under each one of the main things we're wanting to listen for in that piece of music, being able to list those and discuss them, and then be able to critique or give an emotion or a feeling about that music, so they can listen to a story or read a story and come up with the key elements within that story, or whatever. So there's just lots and lots of ways to use this. So I have one today. Y'all seem so excited. And I'm not asking, I just want you to play around with this for a little bit. You can use it as a way to organize your ideas based on differentiation for the exam. You can work in partners, or you can work by yourself. See how I'm differentiating today with flexible groupings. So you can kind of fool around with this. So what is the main idea? Yes, and underneath that, you can kind of come up with your own definition of what you think it is. And Destiny, she might specifically mention content, process, and product if she needs to remember that. And then what you're doing here is tiering, scaffolding, and grouping. And then how can I use this information? Or that's a so what statement. It's a relevance. So I'm going to give you all just a few minutes to kind of talk with your table partner if you want, or if you want to go have another partner somewhere else in the room. You're tired of that person sitting next to you for some reason. Or if you guys want to do a trio, or if some of you want to work alone, I am cool with any of that. I just kind of want you to spend a few minutes having conversations about differentiation. And if there's any misconceptions, we'll kind of clear them up today as you're doing the frame. I don't know if y'all remember this, but I don't know, I'm still wondering, were some of y'all still in 210? When it was still 210?
Yeah.
Okay, 210/220, that book, that new book now, and I don't know if you all had it in 210 or if I got it the next semester, but the new book actually lists differentiated instruction as a type of instructional strategy, and it even discusses differentiated instruction all the way back to 210/220. And of course, in 325, you've got the accommodations and the modifications, because we're talking about exceptional child. Okay? I'm trying to help you get a few more ideas on how to differentiate within your individual lessons or within your units. Go, Ray! That's what? Can y'all give me a second? Can I clarify? Did you all, I'm sorry, turn the light back on, give me a second. Did you all look at these resources, and I know you can't necessarily read them up here, and it's not, I'm not trying to get you to read them specifically up here because they're on Moodle. There were some strategies for scaffolding that I found for you in the, inverted assignment this week. Who was the expert that you listened to? It was a dude, science teacher, Rick Wormley. No, not the science guy. That was good though, Ray. Made me laugh this morning. Rick Wormley is an expert in differentiation, but he's also a science teacher, so he's in the classroom. I admire that very much. When you continue to do what you're really good at, I think that's important. So many times good teachers get out of the classroom to do other things, and I think the classroom suffers. Then I think the best teachers ought to be in the classroom. That's just my opinion. Scaffolding, you've got show and tell, you know, getting the kids to be able to show and tell what they're doing, think aloud things, tapping into prior knowledge, making sure they can connect the things they already know, give time to talk, think, pair, share, turn and talk, those kind of things. Number 4 is so important that you pre-teach your vocabulary, I think. I don't think you wait until you're teaching a concept and then try to get the kid to understand the vocabulary in order to understand the concept. You also can't ask them to write the definitions and then write a sentence with the word. Okay, you two had 359 content literacy, correct?
Currently, yeah.
Okay, and you guys had 351 and 361, correct? So you all should have literacy strategies. How do we teach vocabulary? How do we make sure that students learn their vocabulary? As a math teacher, if I don't teach my vocabulary, who's going to teach it? Well, no one. The reading and writing teacher's not going to teach my math vocabulary. But I am going to incorporate that into my math classroom. So it's important. I really think you have to pre-teach the vocabulary and that scaffolding. And you don't start the unit by saying, all right, boys and girls, we'll start a new unit, get out your vocabulary list, and write the definitions, and give me a sentence. That's not teaching the vocab. Visual aids, pictures, charts, graphs, videos. Pause, ask questions, pause, review. Do y'all remember last semester, the ones of you who had me last semester for 390? Pose, pause, pounce, bounce. Do you remember that? We talked about Tigger. You remember? You pose a question, you pause, and give wait time. 3, 2, 7 seconds to count to Mississippi at least 3 times. And then pounce on a student, unexpectedly. And then when they answer, you bounce it off to another student so everybody doesn't get complacent. So it's just ways to scaffold. Try something new. There's some different examples of scaffolding provided for you there. I'm sorry I did give you another little thing on grouping, cooperative groups, the acronym TASK. I hope you all find these helpful or good resources. Tiering. I got this from Rick Wormley. So this is a tiering, how it works, what it's good for, some tips, and how to do it. So does that help you a little bit? Also, this is uploaded to Moodle, the Equalizer. It's Carol Tomlinson's resource. How when I'm differentiating a lesson, do I need to do it on foundation, or whether the kids are in a concrete mode or an abstract mode? Do I need to do simple or complex? Do I need to do single versus multiple? So it's kind of like an equalizer button on the sound system. Do I need to adjust the bass treble? What am I doing here? So I think this is a good resource as well. I just want to provide you with things that you can use. Does that help a little bit? Okay, so I'll give you a few more minutes. Remember, you can talk to each other. You don't have to be silent. You do not have to be silent. It's okay, you can revise and be edited over time until you're done with it, so just don't panic. This is formative, remember? It can be fixed. I'm taking a poll today. How many of you do not have a laptop you can bring with you next week and will need a Chromebook? Anybody else? Patrick, do you know if Mallory, does she use her own laptop or will she possibly need a Chromebook? Do you know?
I think she might use her laptop. I
Okay.
could send her a message right now.
Thank you. I'm just trying to make sure that I get Chromebooks in here, but now most people like their own laptops because they're used to it, but I just wanna make sure I provide opportunities for everybody to have, electronic device next week. Because on Tuesday, we're working on our PPGP, and the rest of the week, Tuesday and Thursday, you'll be given time to write rationales, edit documents, like next week when you get your management plan back, you might wanna make a few edits, or things like that to it, so I will give you time to do that next week in class. What is the last Tuesday in November? Can you look at your phone? The last Tuesday in November. Okay. On the 27th, on that Tuesday of the last week of class, I will be taking you all to McDonald's for breakfast. Instead of taking both classes on the same day and me getting breakfast twice, I'm gonna take them on the 20th and I'm gonna take you all on the 27th. So we'll come here at 9:30 and then we'll carpool to McDonald's and we'll have breakfast together. Okay? So that's the 27th.
Geography terms in, and the teacher said in order to differentiate.
Oh, you want to change
He used 3 terms instead of 5 terms.
And little butter
Making them different.
No, it's a form of tiering.
Okay.
It's a way around the more. If it were me, I might say that, as I'm scoring and based on the tier, I would say I need to.
Differentiates main words is different. Same and different.
5, and then it lets
So you're
them
not
know
teaching
that
the
they
same,
think
you're
that you're
teaching
minimum, but you can
the
use more, so
same
it's
thing in different.
they're saying
Maybe
she's
so.
making me,
Yeah, I think
you know,
that.
more, but she's making them use it. It's different.
I mean, you teach the same thing, multiple ways to accomplish it for all learners.
Give that to them.
Put it on there.
Actually can do 4, but they know 3 really, really well, but they may want to throw a 4th one in there. So I understand the quantity amount and I get that, but I would probably use the terms at least. so that if they do give you more, you're not pigeonholing them and putting them in these little boxes where they think, you know, because once again, I guess if I was there and it said at least 3, I would probably put 4 just to make sure if one of mine didn't work, that I had a makeup one. I always kind of thought that in my mind, you have kids that would do that. Yeah.
So that's tiering.
It's tiering. Yeah, tiering is any
2
time
C's.
the difficulty level or the amount.
What else?
Scaffolding is when you provide them structure.
That's how I have it.
Or when you're teaching, or we provide structure while they're writing their paragraph, and you're finding them your scaffolding and letting them put one word in at a time, and then going on.
Okay.
So scaffolding is the support, and tiering is where you change the difficulty. Simple, at, complex.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Why is it that when we go to schools, most teachers.
That doesn't even look great. It's 2 C's and 2 N's.
It is okay to do ability levels. The problem is you don't want to pigeonhole into kids with those same ability levels for the whole year. The key is flexible grouping. Sometimes if I'm doing stations, I might want to put my kids in groups based on when they come to me, I'm going to use single digit numbers, or I'm going to use double digit numbers, or I'm going to, like, let's say we're multiplying. This group of kids is going to do 2 digit by 1 digit when they come to me in the activity. These kids are doing 2 by 2s. These kids can do 3 by 2s or 3 by 3s. So I want to differentiate my instruction in the center, and in order to do that, I have to ability group. The thing is, those kids are not always grouped that way, because if they're grouped that way in math ability-wise, they may not be grouped that way when it comes to reading.
Okay.
The kids, my problem with grouping is when they get put in a group and they can never get out of that group, and they're always with the same kids all the time. But if you are doing it based on need and baseline information, then it's not a problem. But you just don't want to put the kids in the red birds, the blue birds, and the yellow birds, and then all year, that's where they are, and they never get to move up, and they never get to move down.
I just know whenever I go in the classroom, that's where a lot of my students are there.
They're tiering,
Yeah, and I'm like, why do you do it that way?
they're tiering.
If they can explain it,
It's one of the easiest ways to do it.
that's what I thought, I just didn't know that.
Kindergarten teacher, they do stations obviously, and so she'll tier them based on their ability for that.
For that, yes.
Yeah, so every couple of weeks it changes.
It changes.
Once they get to her station.
So that's
she'll
good,
assess them,
yes.
And then based on strong.
Yes,
If
I'm good with that.
strong that whole week, then they can bump up.
The problem with ability grouping is when schools have 3 third-grade classes, and they have a low third grade, an average third grade, and an accelerated third grade. That is wrong.
That's how my high school is, they have the different math classes.
I understand that, I did it for years. It wasn't me doing it, I just followed administration's
It was-
schedule. I told you, I had math 8, I had pre-algebra 8th grade, and I had an algebra 1 8th grade. Terrible when you're in that classroom with math 8 and you're trying to make it relevant for those kids and there's nobody to help. It's like I didn't have enough hands, enough arms, enough feet to keep up with all the demands of my kids. Because they need more one-on-one time than the accelerated kids do, but I don't have any help in there. Never had any help, because we weren't collaborating back then when I had that. So, are we cool? What do you think about, now, make sure you understand the difference. The frame is the actual graphic organizer, but framing is a process. It's a way to teach or scaffold, ladies and gentlemen, a way to scaffold while you're providing instruction, especially if the topic is more difficult, or you're in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade and you're teaching a single subject and you are doing some PowerPoints and at times lecture a little bit, make them short and sweet. Like today, my little PowerPoint I think had 7 or 8 slides on it, that's all, it was real quick, just a visual to make sure you stuck with me. Just wanted to provide you with examples.
I really like both of them, the graphic organizer and the framing. I think it breaks it down to where students can understand it coming from the special ed view. I like it because students can fill out one box at a time and they can say, oh, the main idea is this. Why? Give through details. I like that because it's structured, students understand that the best.
Okay.
So,
Also, it beats a kid with an IEP and they go to class and instead of taking notes, they just sit there and at the end of the class, somebody gives them a copy of the notes. Why? If I'm gonna get a copy of the notes, fine, but at least have them to organize and put them into some format, because I'm sorry, if a kid is struggling to read and to follow, how in the world are they going to read and understand a set of notes? And I know P5 doesn't do that, but trust me, middle and high school do all the time. That's a combination they use that I'm not a big fan of.
In one of my placements, my teacher uses guided notes, but they do all their notes on the computer, it's all Google Classroom. And I get so frustrated because that's not differentiating and helping those students.
No, but they think it is because they're using assistive technology and they're doing the guided notes. Max?
If you use this in your class, do you have to force every student to use
No.
it? Because the thing becomes, like for me, I feel restricted, like when I use this, and I don't, like, especially, and I'm not saying every gifted kid isn't gonna be able to use this, but if you have a gifted kid that doesn't like the system or can't learn from the system, do you just like scratch it and let them kind of do
No,
that?
but you differentiate.
Okay.
You provide options. I mean, but you can't base everything on a gifted child being restricted.
I know, I'm just saying like in note taking, I don't like to be pigeonholed, I guess.
And notice I gave it to you today instead of Tuesday when we were talking about it, because I just am using it today as a way for you to put your thoughts together. Because a lot of kids will take notes, but then they'll never look at them.
Yeah.
Hence, sometimes why I think you score lower on an exam, okay? I think you have to take your notes and do something with them that fits your learning style. But I think this is an option, or, no, remember what it said, it's a tool. It's a tool. It could actually, you could let them take notes and then make this be a learning activity afterwards. It's just up to you.
So like, I can see this being used, I watched a video over learning menus. And so this could be an option in that learning menu. Like, some students may use this, whereas some students may use, like, do a brochure
Right.
or something
It
like
would,
that.
remember I told you about cubing?
Right.
And you look at the cube and it has 6 different options. One of them could be complete a frame. Well, for other people, it may be something totally different. I may even do a mind map instead of a frame, because a mind map has less restrictions. And I can explore, and do words and pictures. And there's nothing that says you can't draw in these boxes either. Notice that I did a little bit different. I didn't do this kind of boxes. I just did an open box where you can do anything you want. You can draw in here, you can do whatever you want in here so that you're not restricted by linear system. That's a way that I differentiated this. I made this myself. I didn't take it off of a Google template or a framing template, because that book, I have it in my office, it has the templates in the back. So I didn't do that.
This is kind of off, but it's still on differentiation.
So I struggle with differentiating for ELLs because the only thing I can think of is like drawing, and I don't, like on a formative assessment, for example, I have a hard time differentiating my formative assessment. Like, I understand you can have.
Might need to talk to Mads. Mads has got some really good, she has an ELL teacher in there with her. You might get together with Mads and you all might talk about some things she's seeing in the classroom and use your classmate, your peer, your colleague as a sounding board. Can you help me, because I don't have any. And remember last year in assessment, we always said use, your human resources in the class, use each other as resources. So I would say Mads would be somebody to talk to, because she's experiencing that in her placement. And you guys are gonna have to realize you're gonna have to supplement your own PD. Because when you get out, schools are gonna mandate certain things, you're going, I don't need this, why am I sitting here all day? And you're gonna have to supplement your own. I do all the time. That's why I read education leadership, that's why I read books, and Amazon is my best friend, because I can get a book here within a day or two, so that I can learn new stuff when I'm not in the classroom. Questions? Just wanting to provide you with options, guys, resources, okay? All right, here's what we're gonna do. We are going to peer review, and this is the way we're going to do it. You're going to pick a partner, somebody not at your table. Sorry.
Done.
You all are getting you're getting too familiar with your table partners. So you need to get up and branch out and peer review with somebody else that maybe you've not done or been in a group with or whatever this semester. Now, here's the way I'm gonna do this. Question came up last class. Well, can I go back and fix what my partner told me I needed to fix? And I'm like, what would be the point of peer reviewing if you don't have time to edit and fix? So, what's gonna happen is when you get your feedback today, and when you all finish your peer review session, you're gonna take your lesson plan and your rubric back, and you're gonna make edits if you need to. Next week, there will be a portal open up, and you can upload your lesson, your reflection, and your student work to Moodle, and you bring me your rubric. Because I want the rubric where your scores and your partner's scores are there, and mine are with them. Now, on the last one that you turn in, you get no peer review. You self-assess and I assess, but there's no time to get feedback and fix unless you all take the time and the effort to have a friend peer review your second one. But that's gonna be self-regulation, that's gonna be on you. Okay? Does everybody get it? Somebody said last class, I wish we'd been doing this all along. And I said, well, if you had my 220 right now and my 300, we peer review lesson plans before we turn them in. Since we have the new lesson plan rubric, every semester we peer review lesson plans before we turn them in. Because that's when you're learning them. So we are doing that. You all just came in at the tail end of the lesson plan rubric. Okay? All right, find your partner, guys. But you gotta move. You can't just go with somebody at your table. All right, there's an odd number, so there will have to be a trio.
Does anybody else?
Alright, don't worry that. I want to make sure Ken and Taylor weren't together, and I weren't going to let you and Mallory be together because I want you to read like another content area, so that's good. I didn't let my secondary kids peer review, like I didn't like math, peer review math. So I don't want you to, since you're more, you also special ed, I didn't want you to peer review each other. I want you to stretch your borders a little bit, okay? Ask clarifying questions. If you don't see something, ask. That's the whole benefit of this process.
So I don't have good reflection or student learning, but that should happen.
Right? That's your partner, baby. You can't do peer review alone. You can't do peer review alone. That just doesn't exist. There will be, I told y'all, there will be a trio somewhere. I don't, well, yes. You cannot peer review by yourself. You're not peer reviewing. She's with Patrick, but once again, there are all of these pairs. Join one.
You join one?
Yes. Have you got a rubric? Then you better be finding you one, because without a rubric, they can't peer review.
And I saw that in my backpack.
Okay.
So we do sections because that is what we're discussing.
Why?
Kindergartners.
Why?
So we can see that more one-on-one assistance.
You see what I'm pushing you? Don't just say, because, you gotta tell us why. Why does it work? What? Ask me what? No, don't put percent. That's fine, but don't put a percent.
After reading some
but like complete correct order, because they just need to have it complete.
If your expectation is that they have to all be complete, then yes, you need to state that.
Okay, so
By all
I
of
said
them.
complete.
If you are, if they, depending on how many pictures, if they could get maybe 2 out of place, but they just switched them
Okay,
and still meet your target, you need to state that.
okay. I wanted it completely.
Okay, so you will have no exceeds.
Right,
You will only have meets and below.
right.
But when it's measurable, if I'm asking them to list 5 things, that's my measurability. All 5 of them have to be there. Does that make sense? So if you're putting those in sequence and there's 6 pictures, you need to say all 6 pictures to be complete. I'm sorry, Matt.
It's okay. So in the lesson plan template, it says if it's not part of the unit, only complete part B. So how can we get exemplary on that? If this
You
is-
can't, and remember, that's not what you're supposed to.
Right.
You're not supposed to get,
But there's literally no, like, there's no way to touch it.
no, you should be a 3.
Okay.
You should, and it's not a worry because I have flexible range when it's a lesson plan, because you're talking about, correct me, how many things are on here?
Oh, I don't know how many.
9 times 4 is 36. I have a range. There, I mean, to get 100, which, or maximum points, you don't have to get 36. Does that make sense? So, yeah, don't worry about that.
I saw the point 2 or whatever on the screen.
And then just fill out the top, and if you fill in again with those lines. But yeah, so the second grade class, she have IEPs, there's 23 students.
So where does it?
And then if you wanna switch, I went ahead and made my name on it.
I don't know. I'm not everything is super, but I'm totally okay with it. We have to reach consensus, you understand? In my opinion, there's no way. Yeah, I just don't think so. I think you go right here and don't worry about it. Because again, it's only, I mean, there's other ways to still get. So I'm not sure that it's.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
They don't, I remember we had to reach consensus, and there were some things I had been on, and there were some things that I thought really were not correctly worded, but it's a matter of preference, yeah. But you do need times. Now, some people do running times, and some like 9:05 to 9:10, 9:10 to 9:15, and then some people do like 5 minutes, this, that, so it depends. Some people even do a range like 7 to 10 minutes, or 5 to 6, whatever.
Yeah, I usually do.
Yes, sir.
So, I really struggled in this lesson with differentiation. So for my differentiation, what I said was I use pictures for my differentiation words.
Okay,
Is that different?
you're differentiating the product.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who Jean is?
You're differentiating the assessment.
Okay, so that works. Yeah. Okay. Then I marked in something else on here. So I haven't-
But just that one thing would not move the lesson from this to ineffective either.
Well,
just
I
one
just
thing.
didn't know if this was categorized in differentiation. That's what I was trying to.
But you have to
And you can
explain
do
it
like
that way.
any
You
up
cannot
certain
make
parts of it.
me as an evaluator read your mind if we're not together.
Okay.
It's okay, I was in
That's the reason
band.
why.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Oh, we're
Differentiation.
It's
So,
very
because I know
kind
the
of.
math and science.
so you guys pretty special the whole time.
He was not.
I'm just teaching an overarching differentiation. I'm not teaching specific methods because I can't, because you all are interdisciplinary. And he's secondary. So, I mean, his department teaches him ways that, or should be teaching ways to differentiate in his methods class. You all are being taught math methods specific to differentiation. That's why you all have individual methods for each content areas that you teach.
Well, that would.
Well, but they're all, I'm telling you, no matter what you do, you're either
Lesson on there, but
Content,
this is gonna be the
process
first
or
lesson.
product.
Yeah, and then that's.
I mean, you can't get past that. Even whatever your methods teacher's telling you falls in one of those 3 categories.
So this is where differentiation
forms is like
This
this,
is what I want.
you create this survey, which is, and you give a link to it, and then they can kind of go at their leisure on the Google Forms, submit the assessment, you know. I figured I would do it that way.
I know, and that section's kind of, that's not how I since it is stations, I was like, I don't know how to do like time framing and
Fill out.
just
Yeah,
the
it's
stations.
had
That's
it
what I did.
That way I
I
don't
know.
take class time to do it like they do.
And I kind of
What
went off
do
since
you
it's
have
before they
differences
they
as
do the
to
math groups,
why they
like
were
math
making
stations.
those
So I kind of
figures?
went off those, but changed at least two of the stations. And I like
Did you have anything to do with the pictures or the questions?
Okay, so this is
They'll do that.
explaining.
Because at first I thought it was concepts, it started at performance criteria.
Because sometimes, now, pictures are great, but now sometimes pictures can be misleading
It's
if,
labeling what
I think they
these
wanted
are.
to
I'm not
cover them,
I think that this is just like the overall.
so I think they.
Okay.
Not sure.
well, and I might agree on crayon to let them do it with. Or, I'm gonna be honest with you, if I had done that worksheet and I'm a kindergartner, I would have left the A, B, and C off and just told them to circle the picture.
Oh, okay. I thought about that, but I didn't know.
See, it says circle the right picture, I would have circled the whole picture and left out the A, B, and
A
C.
lot of them did, I just.
Yeah, take that A, B, and C off there.
Okay.
Just have them to circle the picture.
That's what.
Because what are they used to doing in kindergarten anyway? Cross out or circle or underline the one that doesn't fit.
A lot of.
Now be careful, because they're always told to do the one that doesn't fit. What are you asking them to do? It does fit. So you understanding the ramifications? When I ask you all to reflect, that's what I'm asking you to do, is to think. You may not be totally 100% right, but it gets you thinking about, okay, how can I make this better? Well, shoot, I probably should have just had done the, you know, or put a check mark on it, whatever they're used to doing. That's another thing you learn, baseline information, and your cooperating teachers, what are these kids used to already? Now, when it's your class, you'll know, because you're making the procedures and you're taking care of that. But until you do, I would learn everything I can about what that teacher requires.
So, another thing that I noticed, what the higher one was, they were crossing out the one, the rest on the screen. So, numbers area. And I'm not with it. That's my reflection. But here's my procedures, we did section.
I know, I'm just like hard.
Inside the book, I just gave a brief overview of the station. This includes if there's consolidated, the applicant, individual station. So we're on cutting ability skills, they were eliminating which others weren't. That weren't being, they all in here, and the ones that weren't being, went down here. So a lot of them, the teacher has that, because she wanted that for us. And probably the other people didn't know and didn't get. So she's gonna enjoy it and understand it and get this right.
Oh, this is cool. I know, I really like it a lot.
And explain why they do it every day and it's weird. And
Guys, can I clarify something for just a minute? Always remember, I've always told you to kind of like 5-minute rule it around. One thing we need, on the lesson plan, I was told at 8 o'clock this morning that on some of the things, the last box was removed that says watch for. Always remember what I've told you to do with that box. Since I cannot come and observe you and I'm evaluating you on this lesson, do you remember from 390 what I like to be in that box?
What do you change or what?
Yes, what I did change because I taught it and this didn't work, so I rearranged this, or if I have changed the following things in the lesson plans because of what I learned from the reflection. Now, next semester, when you're student teaching, you will use that box for what you want your university supervisor to watch for when they come, and then it becomes a one teach, one observe situation between you and the supervisor. But because I can't come and watch 29 people teach 2 different lesson plans apiece, I like for that box to be, okay, here's what I changed in the lesson plan and why, because why would you turn something in, once again, from last year, that is not 100%, I can make it better. I can always make my lesson better no matter what. So, and if that box is gone, put it back on, and talk to me in that box about what you're, what I did.
I got mine on TigerNet, and I know you said that, like, if you took that box off, the one on TigerNet does not have that box anymore.
Okay.
Like, it's,
That's why when 8 o'clock told me that, I wanted to make sure that I reiterated that to you all today, so that you can put it back on. And next semester you'll need it, because, I'm going to see my student teacher today. I wanna know what she wants me to look for today. I mean, if I don't know, then I can't effectively observe her today. But for me, it needs to be, is this exactly the way you taught it because this is the way you would teach it again? Or did you make some changes because timing didn't work or whatever?
The source of evidence, you want us to copy it over?
No. The source of evidence is more general and whatever. I'm just asking you, what did you fix in the lesson? Because the reflection document just says, what would you do?
Okay.
It doesn't tell you to actually do it. So what you're doing in this box is telling you what to change. You don't have to go into great detail, but just, they're both really the same. Criteria would be, all right, I'm reading your sentence and my criteria is correct punctuation, capitalization, I don't know, what else could you do? No, it's punctuation, use of vocabulary, okay? So that's the criteria. So you would need to get at least 2 out of 3 criteria to meet the target. If the objective is writing effective sentences or whatever.
so that way.
And a rubric is more of this, where you're actually marking like each one. Yes, you would list what for, right. The four, I need to know what the benefits are. No, just, I would say here, benefits are listed in the lesson procedure. Yes, absolutely. See the difference between, criteria is specifically what you're looking for if you're evaluating something. A rubric is more of describing each individual criteria.
But like, what is the other person doing? Just like just walking around. Since they're just I really liked, I do not help that she gave you the curriculum, but I really liked your procedure and how detailed they were. Because you know what you're doing, what the other teacher's doing, and what students are doing. I guess the only thing I noticed is, and you put the me here, I guess it didn't, unless I missed it, I don't know if you explained how the formative assessment would be used to adjust the negative
Everybody
That's the only thing I saw, and the rest like.
Does that make sense? What about the ones who come to you first? Are they gonna have any argument with
I know, I'm scared she's gonna get me.
Stations cannot be higher.
No, I didn't.
There cannot be a specific order because some kids have to start at 0.
So I'll just start it for you.
Okay.
So that's.
I know, it's like,
Stations are the easiest, but you have to work.
so I feel like this one was hard for both of us.
Yes,
Well,
I
It was still.
you're
when I
right.
ordered questions,
But all of the stations need to. Together, or as
Yeah, well, I
they,
always just
take,
attach.
as they go along, maybe doing.
So for
Finishing up homework, or finishing up more work, then you pull the kids one at a time. an oral formative assessment would be
But
on
yeah,
after
we're supposed
all
to do-
stations are over with. You see how you could utilize
Ew.
kids independent work time, then to go back and bring them to each one and read them and check.
And I've
But what I'm saying, don't put this one, I mean, I'm just, that's just a way to fix it so that, because most students don't understand in the stations.
Yeah, roasting.
Because kids don't need to read formative assessment. Now, am I formatively assessing them unobtrusively? Yes. But intrusively, in order to collect data of some sort, I would.
They do their stations literally up until they leave.
Because this says, I mean, you say, when you say
Come back together.
after the
Like sometimes they leave for lunch and then come back to finish up the station. But, okay, so that would work.
And then once again, this would be something you would need to do when it's your own classroom, but also you try to learn in there full time that semester. Like there would be some ways you could do station lessons that you could provide instead of 3 separate or 2 separate formative assessments would there be? Or, you know, as a, like, I don't know.
26 pages, there's 4. But it's not like 5 different pages, it's just and I read two different bundles.
So what I might do is, after all
The
the
lesson,
lessons,
they were so far behind, I think that they're only doing the
yeah, you're just gonna put mine on some way to work within that system. It doesn't have to be all the time, sometimes unobtrusive is fine. And you and your property teacher and the assistant might get together and compare your personal communication, your observation and notes, and then try to do that today. Exactly.
And the teacher has that's like at her station.
That's why. And I'm just offering suggestions, I'm not telling you how to do it, I'm just offering suggestions of things that, things to think about. You like that jazz music yesterday? I noticed, I was watching you, I'm like, Natalie is really enjoying this. Hunter was over there studying for a test, but I can tell you were enjoying the music.
My favorite song is Africa. And they
I love
play
that
it.
song, and Earth, Wind and Fire, I used to be a big fan of Earth, Wind and Fire, I have some of their albums, so
Oh, yeah.
that song was really cool to me. Yeah. Okay, can we kind of get closure here?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so make sure that you have your rubric back from your partner. You have some feedback in your head. You decide what and if you want to change or need to change things before you submit it next week. Keep the rubric with your score and their scores, and then I will put mine on there. Okay? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question about rubric.
Yes, lay it on me.
On the part in the lesson procedures where it talks about time intervals, it says realistic time intervals are included throughout the lesson plan, but the only way we've been taught to include is in the procedures.
We talked about that over that. In some of these, there's really no way to score in that upper level. In my opinion, it just was not, it was something that you can't do. Like I told Max too, to get full points on this, there would be a range. I would not expect you to get all 36 points to get total score. You know there would be a range.
Right.
It is just my professional opinion, it's not worth much, but it's mine. I don't think that it's possible to put it throughout the lesson plan. I think as far as you can go on the realistic time intervals is in that accomplished spot, and where's all teachers supposed to be anyway? Accomplished, not exemplary.
Okay.
It's one of those, it's like your lesson, McKenna. There is no exceeding your expectations for that lesson, so boom, there you go. 2 groups, not 3. We had that discussion over here a minute ago too, McKenna. Y'all got about 3 more minutes.
Maybe that's yeah.
And whenever you're finished, you are free to go.
When we talk about that, it's blowing my mind.
Oh, today was beneficial for you. You always need to use your colleagues. And that's what your classmates now are, colleagues.
It was all without permission and underage girls.
Have a good weekend, guys. Since it's Thursday, you know, I don't see most of you tomorrow, so. Have a good one. You know what I'll be doing with mine. I'm reading classroom management plans and trying to finish my John Grisham book. I still want to finish that book. Cows are now down in the field behind my house. Because once the corn is down, when it's left the cat, and it just drives my dogs insane. Because when I take them out, they won't look back over there and they hear the rustling around behind that fence row. Oh my gosh, I can't get him to go potty because Jackson is ADHD. And so, I mean, she knows to the part where she's gonna go and something, here's, she chases the rabbit over here. It's like, oh my God, will you please just go?
Came back.
What there? Oh, thanks.
We were having a conversation, Derek, what's wrong with you?
Jump around, I just, training, and I was like,
Wow, that's like amazing.
Oh, Lord,
I
no.
just realized we've been on.
Oh, not all that.
Mr. Bishop.
I understand that, until I get all that out of my way, thank you, though. Yeah, you will get those, I promise you, I promise, just not until I get the minute. Yeah, okay, all right. Oh, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do with it, I'll tell you what I'll do, I hope to get through this today, I'll try. If I do, I will fold it like this, what I did for Katie, and I just put it out there in the box outside. Okay, I'll put your name on it.
Do you need to stop recording for you?
You couldn't, once again, it depends on, it says rubric or. Now, realize that if you're doing selective response or whatever, a rubric or criteria would be an answer key. Does that make sense? But most of the time, be leery of selective response in terms of multiple choice. Now, if it's circling a picture or circling this, that, or the other, the criteria would be the correct one. But the problem with that is it would be an answer key and not a rubric or criteria. And in some ways, an answer key is the rubric or the criteria, depending on what type of assessment method you choose. Remember last semester in 390, the assessment method sheet? If you do selective response, it's an answer key, not a rubric or criteria like it would be for written response or performance or even personal communication would have to have criteria or a rubric with it in order for you to know how you're scoring the journals and logs or how you're doing the discussion or whatever.
Okay, I was just curious, because I was like, I don't know how to make a rubric work.
You don't, well, once again, answer key is a form of criteria.
Okay.
Make
If
sense?
I include it in the, okay, alright, thank you.
You're welcome. Are you getting crowded?
So I'm teaching Mondays, that's fine.
you know that everything else is clear, that you're scheduled with, who's your advisor?
G.
No, I'm talking,
Oh, yeah, oh, yes, yes, yes.
okay, so you are ready to